difference between the most important aspect of real estate. That's what sits between our ears. JC, what's your gut feel? Is it going to happen, not happen? And what's the implications if it does or if it doesn't?
Man, there's so much going on in the world at the moment, not just locally. So, look, I think they probably do need to drop interest rates, but is it going to have an effect? I don't think so. There'll be a short term, a bit of excitement around, and hopefully a bit of confidence will come back. But they usually drop interest rates because the market is bad, and they need to stimulate the market. So no, I don't see a massive influx in that. I think it's just going to trickle along, especially in Victoria. In other states, maybe. Victoria, we've got so much else going on, other taxes against investment properties, that sort of stuff is what's limiting us. So
yeah, look, I think, and I was talking to some agents yesterday, the big thing for Victoria at the moment, the majority of Victoria, is the volumes of transactions are down by about 25 to 30%.
Yeah, 30%.
So when we look at our marketplaces, if there's 30% less turnover in transactions, it's the strategy to actually do your the same volume as you did in a normal marketplace. You just got to be doing more. And I know it's so cliche to say it, and probably the last thing most people want to hear is you actually got to do more to do the same. And probably the most frustrating thing for a real estate agent is, to actually do the same numbers. You've got to do more prospecting. You got to get into more doors. You got to get into more opportunities. But there is no other solution unless anyone else has got something. Because I don't know, how else to do it. You need to get into more now vendors. You got to be seen more. You've got to be doing more prospecting to do that. It all starts with the opportunity to get in the door in the first place.
I love it, Manos. I love it when the market's like this, because you have to hustle. You have to. It fires you up, I reckon. Yeah, rather than getting in the hole, it's you dig deep and get going.
Yeah, and so JC, which is a really good mindset to have that positive energy around it. But what are the actual activities you're doing? I was talking to an agent yesterday, and they are so frustrated. And when I looked at their results, I said, actually, you're doing okay, because unlike most agencies that have gone backwards, and Melbourne agency that have gone backwards in the last 12 months, you've actually maintained your volume, which technically means that you actually increased your market share as a percentage. It's not reflected in GCI. So if they were doing 500,000, 3 years ago, and they did 500,000 the year before and 500,000 last year, it kind of means that if it was a normal market, they'd probably be doing 750,000 GCI, which is, but they're not banking the bank, which is really important. But what are you doing right now to get into what most people want, and that is now vendors?
Yeah, it's exactly the same for me. We haven't lost market share, but there's 30% less listings and 30% less sales. So we've maintained the same market share. So yes, doesn't reflect in the bank. So I take that positively, because to me that we're winning because we're gaining market share. What have I done different? I haven't really done anything differently. We've just ramped it up even more. So more letterbox jobs. More of the AI stuff that we're doing, sending out text messages to try and engage people, more anniversary calls. I'm just on the phone more. It's just, instead of taking breaks and being lazy, I'm probably on the phone a lot more than I normally would be. Good, because you can take the foot off the pedal. But I'm setting up now for when the market is good again, whether that be 12 months, 18 months. I want my boards everywhere that people go, yep, I see them all over the place. So the social proof stuff, we're really pushing. We're pushing the just listed, just solds around everything, and we've expanded that. So yeah, just more of the same. But we try and cover every bit of the marketing. We don't just do social media. We don't just do letterbox drops. We do all of it to have that on the credits.
Yeah, and I think it's so important. I mean, and JC, the advantage that most agents have right now is that the majority of agents are actually slowing down, because they're not getting the same results in letterbox drops. They go, well, it's not working, so I'll stop it, which is the worst thing that you can do. You've just got to go blind faith. And if there were 100 transactions last year and you got 20% market share, that's 20 sales. If the year before there was 200 transactions, 20% market share, you're doing 40 sales. So most people are struggling. How do you bridge the gap between the 20 and the 40 and make sure you don't have a repeat, right? So that's the big one. That is the absolute big one. How do you maintain that consistency? And JC, does anyone else want to share what they're doing right now to get into more doors, and especially in those agents in their marketplace where they've seen the volume of transactions slow down? And then we'll get straight into, I know we've just clocked on to 11:30, but I think it's an important topic to start today's session, because as everyone knows, in a quiet market, what is it that we need?
Listings.
In a balanced market, what is it we need?
Listings.
And in a hot market, what is it we need?
Sales.
So we always need one cluey person in the teams. Actually, now we need these things that convert to sales. I believe that once you have a listing, process takes care of the sale. The hustle, though, is the one that gets you the listing, and that's the big one. But is anyone else want to just share their experience if they've found that they've changed something to get themselves into more doors?
We are doing more, less trying to find a cold appraisal, and we're just trying to market to the masses so that you're on the shopping list when the time comes around. They're actually looking to choose their agent. I think a big change that I've noticed is we've done price drive letters for years, which are we're doing appraisals in your street. It's a really cold approach. Sometimes you get some sellers, but the majority is to fill your database, to build a relationship, to then turn into a listing down the track. And they're just not having the same hit rate that they used to. I think a lot of people can find out roughly what their home is worth very quickly by lots of different websites. And so needing an agent to give them a price update, for the most part, is it's not really what people are after anymore. But so we're targeting now sellers. So either marketing wise to make sure we are on the shopping list, and that's our drops and our boards and our social media posts and all those sort of things. And then we're doing buyer letters at the moment. We've had 2 calls from this week from Ash doing buyer letters with people that are wanting to sell now. So one guy is selling now. The other ones are just curious to find out what the buyers, what they're willing to pay. So that as an approach to find, low hanging fruit and get that timing right for those few vendors that maybe don't have a relationship with people. And then we're loving the one you're with. We're going back to, we're doing our calls. I'm doing calls to my past vendors and just simply asking, 1, how they're going, but then 2, just a friendly reminder if they know anyone that's thinking of selling that I'd love to help. And so it's sort of a soft way of asking for a referral. And then Ash is calling past buyers that I don't have a really tight relationship with, just to spread it further so we can get onto more faster. And then she's booked a couple of appraisals this week from, 10 calls or whatever it is, what she made. So.
And what's your appraisal? Have you shifted your appraisal numbers to achieve the same results, Michael? So have you upped your appraisal numbers?
Well, that's the intention, yeah. So we're going for a higher GCI this year. The last 6 months of last year, we wrote about 400. So if we just replicate that without the third person, we'd be on track for 8, which is a really good target. But we're planning on doing more because we've got an additional person working with us now, Michelle. But we found that like last year, mine was 1 in 3. So my appraisal list ratio was at 1 in 3. If you ask me 2 or 3 years prior to that, it might have been 1 in 5 because we were doing a lot of cold prospecting. So I don't want more cold appraisals. I'll take them, but it's not what I'm interested in. I'm interested in now sellers, and I know enough people and enough people know me that I shouldn't be trying to find them elsewhere. That's a part of it with our prospecting, but we really need to be keeping in touch with people that I've got a relationship and they already know who I am.
Yeah, no, brilliant, Michael. And I think there is that distinct difference between now sellers and warming up potential sellers for the future. And of course, you can't. Sometimes you just don't know when they are a now seller. But when you do all your marketing channels the right way and consistently, the now sellers suddenly appear more often. And that's where everyone needs to really understand. There is no more shortcuts in real estate. If everyone thinks they can wing it and hope to get onto the shopping list, I think those days are over, because there are so many marketing channels that so many different agents are using. Your greatest advantage, though, and I'll finish off on this before we get stuck into the program, is your greatest competitive advantage is that the competition is lazy. As long as the competition doesn't say the same, can say the same thing about you, right? And it's a really important mindset to have. It's all about being speed of execution, speed of reply, and executing all the moving parts correctly and consistently. And on that note, let's get straight into it. A big hello to everyone that's joined us. A big hello to a number of new Black Salt attendees today. So welcome to your first virtual session of Black Salt. We absolutely love these sessions, and we feel that a lot of people walk away with some great content. But what's most important is we've got agents in the field training agents in the field, our whole mantra of Black Salt. In today's session, we've got some absolute superstars that will be presenting, and I'll be just on the sidelines for most parts, and I'm really excited. So we'll get straight into the presentation. I'm going to just share my screen. Make sure we get it right in the first instance, number 3. Okay. If I can get everyone's big thumbs up that you can see that. Fantastic. Okay, so I've got a number of our support team here. I've got the beautiful Steph Longley taking videos just straight over there. You can come in and say a quick hello, which is fantastic. And I've got Arthur, who's our co-host as well, who'll be monitoring the chat box. So again, guys, those that have been with us before and those that have come for the first time, let's get some chats happening. Let's get some collaboration. And obviously throughout throughout today's session, we'll be asking people for questions and so forth. So again, it'll be remiss of me if I don't start with, and it does, that doesn't. No, doesn't like it. Does not like it. Right. No, not happening. No, there we go. Let's see if it happens now. Okay. So first of all, just want to say a big thank you once again to all our industry partners. Black Salt could not be put on without the support of obviously these invaluable industry partners. They're the best in their field. We use all of them, obviously from agency perspective, and we're super excited to always be partnering with them in regards to providing great tools and techniques and services. And as I've always said, a partnership with your third-party suppliers in your own agency is just as important as how you engage with your immediate team members and staff. This is part of your team, so make sure you use their services. One of the big things I've realized in real estate is we sometimes don't know what we don't know, and I'm sure some of the third-party suppliers that are on here today will probably attest to the fact that they provide so much great service. Sometimes we actually don't know what they all do. Do you know what I mean? And the depth of knowledge that they have and how much they can actually help their business. So it does take some effort, but get to build these relationships and your businesses will fly. So a big thank you to these guys. Okay, of course, we're talking about our Black Salt virtual sessions, and everything can be found on the Resource Hub. We've got an exciting announcement to make. Make sure that if you haven't downloaded your workbooks, these are absolutely invaluable, team. Please do so. I had one agent last week who's downloaded everything and just went through every single page one by one and got into the real detail, and it was an absolute eye-opener for them. So if you haven't done that yourselves, please do so. And of course, all the downloadable workbooks as well. Okay. Membership program, we're up to session February. Today's session is the signature negotiation process, which is super exciting. And of course, we've had all the previous ones. But I've got a super exciting announcement to make today, and that is introducing to you the next addition to Black Salt, and it is Black Salt and your personalized AI coach. So we've been working really hard in the background with one of our third-party industry partners, and they've created a on-demand AI-powered real estate coach, access everything, anytime, anywhere. And whilst our portal is fantastic and you can go into the videos, you can go into the transcripts and you go through your workbooks, I want you to think about now that you're going to have in your hot little hand the AI coach that's going to be helping you do role plays. It's going to help you talk about negotiation. It's going to talk about your numbers, key strategies, all talking. So this, if you have not been using ChatGPT in your business, you're behind the 8 ball. Now this is the new evolution of AI, guys. We're super excited about this because I've been using it from a test case perspective, and I cannot believe the interaction that you can have on demand. So look, we don't want to overcomplicate it. What it's doing is we're giving this platform access to all our resources, all past trainings, recordings, transcripts, workbooks, anything that we've done through the Black Salt training program has been entered into our AI platform. That means that the AI bot now can actually talk to you like it's he's your coach, right? And what it also will do is profile learning. So everyone that's a member of Black Salt, agency members are automatically Black Salt members. So, but those people not part of agency, part of your membership, you'll get AI coach. And what it does, as you log in, it will remember your ID. So it will start learning your profile. So if you started a conversation with AI coach and said, hey, I have a vendor, he's been on the market for 5 weeks. I've presented X amount of offers. I've got this great offer at the moment. How can you best, what should I be saying to my vendor? It will search the whole library and come back to you with some suggested dialogue on the go as you're talking to it. Okay. Eventually, it'll be able to create an email. Eventually, it'll be able to create an SMS as well. So that feature will be coming in later in the year. But right now, you've got a coach. It's like ringing any one of your favorite coaches, ringing me or ringing anyone that's been presenting, and you've got them on demand. And then it will send you a transcription to your email, okay, of what you discussed, a summary of what you discussed. It is launching 1st of March. We've got a couple of people just making sure, and it will take us that long to upload all the content. But this is a super exciting feature. Who's excited? Who's that big thumbs up? Yeah, I know. And I've got Jazz obviously tuning in, and I know we were in his office last week just talking about it and doing some test samples of a whole bunch of stuff that's happening AI-wise. So super, look, watch this space, guys. Yeah, so super excited. Okay, so moving forward. So now everyone's annual membership not only includes all the virtual sessions, the business leadership, the comprehensive workbooks, exclusive access to the resource hub, access to all conference post-event recordings, the early bird discounts for future events. You've also got now AI coach. So really, really excited about that. Okay, for $1 a day. But let's get into today's session. Enough of my plugging of Black Salt. Let's go. So today we're talking about the signature negotiation process. What is it? Okay. What is a signature negotiation process? And there's 5 strategic things. Signature negotiation process is about being consistent and having a transparent approach with your buyers and with your sellers. It means having a structured, repeatable framework that ensures that consistency and success in closing deals with complete transparency. And more importantly, for you to have the confidence that you're delivering the best outcome for your vendors and your buyers. So a strategic process, it outlines a step-by-step method for navigating negotiation from initial engagement to final agreement. So in summary, can anyone clearly articulate, question to the audience, can you clearly articulate your negotiation process to a seller and or buyer? Who can do that confidently? Well, everyone's hand should go up, don't you think?
Mhm.
Absolutely, right? Because if you don't, what are they engaging you for? There's one thing about AI that will never, ever be replacing that human emotion and that human connection. And that is the negotiation process and the last 25 meters walk up the driveway. So remember this, but it's going to assist you. And this is what the exciting thing about AI is. And I'm hoping by the end of the session, you can answer this. If you haven't already got your strategy in place, that from today's session, you'll get some real key bullet points and then just have it structured. And the best way to do it is actually to document it, right? So part of your strategy is to make sure that you have a psychology of influence. So the process integrates the persuasive techniques and of course, understanding the buyer and seller motivations to create the win-win outcomes. As I said, the big one for me is this, right? Control and confidence. And I think we all can relate to this one because control and confidence, if you're displaying control and confidence, and that's in anything that we do, and me delivering this topic, making sure that I know what I'm talking about. It's the same with negotiation, understanding the nuances of the negotiation process, understanding when to use the pause, when to ask the right questions, allowing negotiations to breathe. That was one of the big things. Sometimes you got to let time do its thing. Don't always be in a rush. And we're going to hear from the experts, the agents in the field doing it right now. And obviously learning from them. And of course, having the results for it, the proven success. If you're not walking into your lounge room, into your listing presentations with your case studies and demonstrating how you're achieving the best results for your sellers, from how you market the property, how you find the best buyer, and then how do you negotiate the best outcome for that, for those particular properties that you've sold in the past, you'll be missing out on opportunities and probably leaving money on the table. Okay. And I just want to plug this book as well, Never Split the Difference. This is an excellent book for negotiation and mindset. And, in summary, tactical empathy is Chris Voss. If you haven't heard of Chris Voss, he presented at one of the ARIC conferences, one of the best sessions I've seen on negotiation. His delivery and the way he articulated the negotiation process was phenomenal. So I strongly recommend that you go onto YouTube and just listen to a couple of his negotiation techniques. But in summary, he talks about tactical empathy, understanding, acknowledging the emotions and the motivations, and obviously for the purpose of building trust and influence decisions, mirroring and labeling, so important. I think one of the masters of mirroring here is Mr. Jarrod Carman, right? So he is the best of the best, and the ability to be present and be repeating key phrases and just amazing. And of course, the absolute power of no, which is sometimes in our situations allowing negotiations time to breathe, as I mentioned earlier. Okay, without further ado, let me introduce our guest panels today, our panel, which is, of course, Mr. Daniel Bignold from Props and Collab 6. So hi, Daniel, who's the developer of the Props Make an Offer platform. So he'll be talking about perfecting the digital online offer process. We've got Mr. Jarrod Carman, JC, $1 million agent and just a super beautiful human being and one of the best negotiators in the industry. His approach is amazing. And our very own Mr. Michael McClure here in our office here. Michael has been with our team for close on 15 years now, isn't it, Michael? 15, 16 years. And one of the most, he has perfected his negotiation process to the T. If anyone can articulate how they can get the best out of a buyer for their vendor, it's this man today. So I can give them all a big virtual round of applause. and we'll get straight into it. So if I can get, I'm going to hand it over to Daniel, who will talk about perfecting the digital online offer process. Hey, Daniel, how you doing?
Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Thank you, Manos. How are we all doing? Thumbs up.
Good.
Good. Awesome. So yeah, look, obviously I'm the tech guy, right? I only wear black t-shirts, so you can clearly see the tech guy in a room of agents. So my job today is really to challenge your thinking around how you can utilize tech in your whole negotiation process. So as Manos mentioned there, obviously Props is now part of Collab 6 group, and but in terms of Collab 6 itself, just so you're aware, how we position that business is essentially we're a tech coach. You obviously heard about the AI coach just a moment ago. Everyone's familiar with sales coaches. So we're basically a tech coach, so to help with all things prop tech. But for today, Props is actually the focus in terms of what I wanted to talk about, because about 5 years ago, when we actually embarked on this process to develop Props, it was actually specifically designed as a tech solution to try and help the negotiation process. Now, based on a lot of our research, it was the highest point, pain point in the whole buying and selling process, because it's really where the three paths intersect between agent, buyer, seller, and very emotional stage. And so we thought, well, how can we actually build some tech to actually help the process? And I thought today, rather than me just blabbering on about how amazing the technology is, I thought I'd pick on a few agents and get them to talk about how they're actually utilizing technology and digital offers and the whole process around trying to create some urgency and competition. And so I can see Gary Singh's online. So Gary Singh from Clear Cut Real Estate, would you mind saying hello? You just jump on.
Hey. Yeah, no, you're right. Morning all.
There he is. How are you, mate?
Good, mate. Good, thank you. Good morning, everyone there.
Hey, Gary.
Great. So, what I'd like to talk about with Gary actually is Gary obviously does private treaty and auction, but something that a lot of agents think about with the whole process of gathering the offers from buyers and trying to create some competition is that there's perception that really you need 5 or 6 really interested hot buyers to create a real competitive environment. But Gary actually challenges that thinking and utilizes technology to try and create that urgency, even with one or two buyers. And so it might be good, Gary, if you could just talk through your process in terms of how you would structure your campaign and how you sort of lead into that negotiation process, please.
Sure. Thank you, Daniel. As I think I'll start with something with what Manos mentioned in the beginning to this session, that it is about that having that structure and the transparency with the buyer. And on top of that, if you, in my experience, if you use this tool that with the platform we have, it executes to the next level. I originally thought when I think got on board with Props, I originally thought it would work in the case of like creating that FOMO, which is fear of missing out, and you have a certain properties where you have a heavy competition. It works. That was my original thoughts. But when I used it on a properties where we knew that that's not everyone's cup of tea, and we're going to have a limited buyers buying this property, it had actually worked out of expectations. I literally had one registered buyer for the auction property, and it was sold prior to the auction to that buyer through the channel or through the platform. I think you can use it to your advantage. Depends I'll probably be repeating now, saying how you strategize it. What do you say to the buyers? How you're taking or accepting the offers, and you execute it. That matters a lot, because that also builds some sort of a transparency. And I use the one particular word at the open home, that we've got an online platform, which is a transparent, and your offers will be acknowledged from there. It will be sent to the owners, and will come back to you on XYZ date or a day and a time. What on top of that, it also helped me in was creating me following up with the buyers. Because let's say, for example, if I'm doing 3-4 open homes in a day, it's going to be, and if we had like 10 to 15 buyers coming through the property, each property, and literally talking about 60 buyers, and you have that limited time on a Saturday, going back to everyone having those conversations. So what I say at the open home is basically, you will receive a link from us in a text, blah, blah, blah. I will be giving a call everyone after 2 o'clock. If you have any questions, please be open and ask me anything that you want. And you will also receive a link for all the relative documents for the property, and then just finish it there. So what it does is as soon as the buyer walks out of the door, they receive a link for actually that Fox campaign where they can go and download the documents and make an offer, which then reduces the time. So by the time I get to 2 o'clock, I already know who actually is interested in the property because they've registered it, and you can see how many registered buyers. And if the competition gets heavier, you can use a tool or a tab there saying reveal the competition. So in Queensland, you can't reveal the figure to any of the buyers, but what you can reveal is the ranking. So buyers can get to see whether their offer is sitting up the top 1, 2, or 3. So you use it to your advantage. Like, you got to be strategic with it. In some other properties, there might be only 1 or 2 registered buyers. I haven't used revealing the competition in that because it wouldn't work in that case. So again, as Manos said, and repeating again, strategic, but having that transparency. You tell them what you're doing, how you're doing it, and then you execute it. By the time you sit back for your callback session, the offer's already on the platform, and then you deal with the rest of the buyers as well. So you, of course, wouldn't leave the rest of the buyers out of the game, but it reduces your workload. That's what I've experienced.
Yeah, great points. I'll just highlight a few things you've mentioned there, Gary. Thank you. So first point around the structure is really important. So and particularly with technology, like, yeah, the good technology, like I always say, shouldn't make an agent change the way they operate, and shouldn't actually make an agent or reduce the effort from an agent in terms of their skill. Like, it can make you more efficient and give you more capacity, but shouldn't take away the skill of the agent. And so the way we design technology is that it supports the agent. And exactly as Gary said, you've got to use it strategically so that you actually get the most out of it. So the first thing was, I just, as a call out, that what was mentioned was that Gary said that, you know, the structure is really important. So, you know, when a buyer comes to an open home, you need to say, well, look, if you're interested in the property, here's the process. And so the process, you know, that we suggest is definitely, look, if you're interested in the property, scan my digital business card, register your interest there, and that's where you can access all the documents and then obviously place an offer. But it's up to the agent to stipulate that process, and then obviously encourage the buyers to put that foot forward. Because, and just the point around, you know, creating that competition where there might not be a lot of competition for a property that's not so hot. The whole idea is when you get the buyers into that environment digitally, it actually creates competition amongst itself. So for instance, you know, and I know Gary does this, where you know, if there's a buyer that's interested, it's like, okay, so, you know, what level might you be interested? You know, 600 grand, 700 grand, whatever it is. And so if they say, look, I wouldn't buy it for 600. Okay, well, look, what would you pay for it? 500, 400, whatever it is. Okay, 400, you'd buy it for 400? Yeah, absolutely, great. Register your interest, put in an offer at 400, just so you're in the process. And if you get every buyer that is somewhat interested to actually register their interest at whatever level they're interested in, doesn't have to be the offer price, at least you're actually creating an environment now where you're creating competition. And then because the platform allows buyers to see, well, oh, there's, you know, six registered buyers now, and someone's placing an offer here and someone else is placing an offer here. Or it just feels like something's heating up and creating that competition. And so that's definitely something that Gary does really well, to try and get that interest registered and get those offers, no matter how big or small, get them in the system. And that's that consistency element that Manos was talking about. It's a consistent process, consistent way in which you're collecting that interest, and then using the tool to actually, you know, create that transparency and competition. Great points, Gary. Thank you. Just on the transparency, some agents that we know, you know, like to create a really transparent environment. Others don't, right? They like to keep their cards to their chest. Just interested in your thoughts around that transparency angle. Obviously, you do when it's relevant, exactly as you said. If you've got one buyer registered, you don't want to create any transparency for everybody else to say there's only one registered buyer. But how do you use that to your advantage, that transparency element?
Yeah, I think it's it was very straightforward for me. Like, what exactly dialogues will I be using at the open homes? Because what you say and you execute has to match. So the buyers will come and ask, can we fill in a form, or can we send you an email? Can you text? And the simple answer to them is, look, I'm a human being. I wish I was AI. Sometimes it can get ignored, but I would like you to be on this process. It is very transparent. No offers will be missed. I will be sending you a link. You go through it, whether you are looking to put an offer today, tomorrow, or Monday. You just get yourself registered, and whenever you get a chance, you have a think over it tonight or tomorrow night and put an offer through. And in some cases, it also has helped me to create a deadline, because when I know the owners under the pump, they need to make a decision by a certain day, I then bring it, send a bulk message. So you can send, this is a tool within the app, you can send a bulk message. You send a deadline saying the offers will be closed by such a day, by such a date and a time, and you will certainly start receiving the offers. But you shouldn't only rely on that. As I said, the human touch, or what Manos says always, that you can't take that human touch away. So you still give a call back and say, hey, you must have received this from the apps. That's gone in bulk to all the buyers, so every buyer's on the same page. It's just like, and they can go and see that through the app, that message was already there before I called them. So it doesn't look like anything is just made up. It's like, it's a process that we are following, and that's the only way we're accepting the offers. And if you're interested, please register yourself through the app.
Great. And just moving on to sort of the vendor piece now, right? Obviously we're talking about the buyer side, but how then do you manage your vendor conversation? So obviously you've gathered X number of interested buyers in a campaign, you've gathered X number of offers. How do you talk to the vendor around that? How can you utilize some of the technology with those conversations?
Yes, like, I think it works two different ways. So one, I use it at a listing presentation, using it to my advantage, and show them how one buyer started at a certain price and how we exceeded $40,000, $50,000 from the same buyer, which has occurred in a couple of properties. And the others we've seen, we know this term, buyers are liars, when it comes to buying the property. The first offer is never the last offer. That's how it goes. But it helps me, rather than me saying it from my mouth or my words, it shows them something that has already occurred with some other property. So that comes in a listing presentation handy. While dealing with the current vendor that is on the market, is again showing them a transparency. That's what it helps, even though they've trusted you to take the lead and list the property. But it gives them something extra, that the agent is not hiding anything. Everything is through the system. These are the offers we have. This buyer started at this point and now is bid another, or bid twice. And some of the buyers have bid 5, 6 times. So this is another thing I say to the buyers, that they can bid as many times as they like until XYZ date and a time. So that helps the owners to understand, yes, there's no stone left unturned. This is the best offer. And by the way, sometimes even if the buyer have done the last offer just an hour before, I know by the time he's actually really keen to go above and beyond, I will purposely go and ring them up and say, hey, I know you can't see the numbers there, and unfortunately I can't tell you, mention it to you because of the loss we have here, but I would like to advise you now that if you want to be in a position to buy this property or be on the contract, you'd probably be looking at, going XYZ amount. So if you would like to go ahead with that, please push the buttons again, and you may hear the good news in the next 2 hours.
Great. Yeah.
Again,
sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. Again, everything to your advantage and to the structure you have already mentioned to the buyers. But coming back to your question, I think your question was to the vendors, but I think that's where I will end my statement with that. It helps me with the vendors, showing them the transparency and showing them that we have reached out to every particular buyer, every piece of buyer, and these are the offers we have on table right now.
Yeah, brilliant. And also what we find with a lot of agents is not only it's great because you've got, digitally you're capturing the interest of the buyers rather than, written notes somewhere or text messages or emails here. It's all in a system. Great for compliance, by the way, but great, obviously, if in terms of having a conversation with the vendor. But you've actually got a market value. It calculates a market value based on the average level of interest. And that's a great number to take to a vendor, because you can say, look, this is not my view. This is what the buyers are saying in terms of what your property's worth, and buyers are willing to pay this for it. And then you can actually also quite easily show, well, I've taken this buyer from here, from their initial, exactly as Gary mentioned. When buyers are liars, their initial offer could be the low ball, but you can actually explain the value that you're providing as an agent. I've taken this buyer from here to here, this buyer from here to here, and we're now taking the average from here to here. So I've actually added X dollars value to actually lift the buyer average up. And then take that from that process there. And obviously, depending on the vendor's price that they're after, then it's up to you as the agent, not the platform, for you as the agent to actually, really find where that ceiling is for the buyers to get the most out of it. And one way you can enhance that with props is actually the countdown timer, as Gary mentioned. Obviously, many times, I'm sure, and we hear it many times, is that you've got, you might have some interest from some buyers, and they're just not taking that next step to actually put their hat in the ring. Put a countdown timer in there. Say, we're accepting offers by 5 p.m. Friday, and you have to be in it to win it. And that actually just gets that, that momentum to create that urgency. It's like, oh, I'm going to miss out. I better get my hat in the ring. And just doing those little elements and you driving that process and adding that your value and negotiation throughout that whole process just helps to elevate it to a whole new level.
Yeah. I
Terrific.
think the one
Thank you,
thing
Gary. Anything else to add? Yeah, please.
I think the only thing I haven't mentioned there is also a tool where you can switch it to the binding and non-binding offers. Again, to your advantage.
100%, and that's a really good point. If you're going to a point of actually revealing position of buyers, we absolutely recommend just locking the top one. Before you do that, locking the top one as a binding offer. So you've just got that in your pocket as a safety blanket. Then reveal position and then let the buyers fight it out. It's not an online auction, it's still offers. So even if you get to a level at the end of a countdown time or at the end of the process and the price is not where you need it to be, you can just go back to that top 2-3 buyers and say, look, we're not there yet. Vendor wants X, who's willing to come up there? So you can utilize the technology and the platform to the way in which you want to run your process. Awesome. Thank you very much, Gary. Now I've noticed Adam from Benchmark has jumped online. There he is. Oh. And also Alan Riley from Riley Real Estate's here as well, I can see.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, Adam.
Hey, sorry, I just couldn't get on me thing there. Hey, Black Sock people, how we doing?
Really
Hey, Manos,
Martha,
Michael, Jarrod, everyone. Hey, how we going? All right, props is great. Talk to me. What do you want me to say, Daniel? We spoke about this yesterday. It's going good. I'm really enjoying using it. The transparency it creates, especially up here in Queensland or Cairns. We can't get pricing and stuff like that until the owners actually put a price on it, and then that's what we can let people know, and we adjust the marketing accordingly. But it does definitely create that urgency around getting buyers to put offers in, and if they're sort of trying to play the game a little bit, hang on, I'm just getting out of that. Trying to play the game a little bit, it sort of fleshes out the time wasters, which is really, really good.
Mate, I don't even have to ask you a question. You just
Yeah, I just rolled that off, mate. Yeah, I'm here for the next 5 minutes, and we're good to go. Yeah, cool.
You must be a real estate agent or something.
Oh, something. Yeah.
Mate, look, thanks so much for joining. I think the when we've been chatting, the difference in the Cairns market is obviously private treaty really is the way to go up there rather than auction. You actually have a different process to Gary. You seem to sort of do a two-phase type approach generally, where you put the property on the market as it offers above X. Then you do essentially you'll get it to a certain price, and then go for really a first in best dress price. So could you just talk through that
Basically.
process, please?
Yeah, so pre-open or something, they'll get you know, all the information. The buyers get the proper information. They get a link. You know, we send them an analog sort of attachment. You know, for the older generation, like to print stuff out and write things down, and we present that to them at the open home as well. But for people that are a bit more tech savvy, they just click the link onto the Props digital offer platform, and it takes them through that. And it asks a lot of information as well, which is good. So we get sort of clarity. And the questions that we ask buyers as well helps us to sort of confirm, you know, where they're at in the buying process and how much they can afford and all that sort of stuff. And then after the open home, they all get an email with that information again. And then when we start getting registered buyers, you know, if I have sort of 3 or 4 registered buyers on a property that are just not offering, like you can see when they're offering, when they're registered, then we might set, you know, a timer, or I might get an email out, or I might get a certain number from the owner, and the owner's just said, yeah, we're happy with this, and then I'll change the marketing to reflect that, and then I'll let everybody know. And then it becomes a first in best dress, like, you know, if you might put a day or 2 on it, or offers end by, you know, 12 o'clock tomorrow, midday tomorrow, and then that creates that urgency, and then that's when, you know, the offers sort of start coming, and it really helps us flesh out ones that are sort of just there, and the actual real buyers. So it's a really good tool, to create that urgency. Once again, it's not really an auction market. There are some agents that do auctions here, so we don't do that. And in Queensland, you can't tell the price anyway when there's an auction campaign. But it just, once again, creates urgency, helps us make sure we're dealing with buyers that are going to buy. Typically at the moment up in Cairns, we're probably lucky to have 3, maybe 4 buyers per property. So it's quite limited, but the ones that are there are the ones that are going to buy. So, and then there's other times where people just come out of nowhere. They go, hey, and then it's like, who's this guy? You know, and the Props helps with that as well, because it's all online and they can access it any time, and they're not having to wait for us to get them details and stuff like that. So we're pretty happy with it. I'll probably, you know, we sold maybe over 20 odd properties now, and I'd say at least half, maybe, you know, 60% of those have been via the Props offer platform. Yeah.
Right. And something that Gary mentioned, which I know you've also experienced too, is it sort of that FOMO element, the fear of missing out, where
right.
when you're exposed to, you know, how many interested buyers are actually on a particular property, you're actually getting buyers calling you going, hang on, someone's just placed an offer. What's going on here?
Correct. Yeah. So that helps us legitimize what we say. You know, hey, you know, we've got a buy, we've got an offer coming in, and buyers don't believe that for whatever reason, because we're probably real estate agents. It's probably what it is, I think. And then they're like, oh yeah, whatever. And then a buy, you know, an offer comes in at 8 o'clock on a Saturday night, and then you're getting a text from the buyer saying, oh, an offer's come in. I'm like, yeah, well, I told you that. And you know, you keep piss farting around, you're not going to get it. You know. So once again, it keeps us sort of, keeps the buyers knowing that we operate with, you know, integrity, transparency, and honesty, and we're doing what we're saying we're doing. And if you fall asleep at the wheel because you think we're, you know, talking shit, for want of a better term, well, you're going to miss out.
Exactly. And that transparency element, as I said before with Gary, it's, you know, some agents like it, some don't, but I think what we find more often than not is that it's actually a real advantage for you, that transparency. So a lot of agents are afraid of it, but you actually get.
I'd be concerned by the agents that are afraid of that.
Sorry.
You know, I'd be concerned with any agents that are afraid with transparency. I mean, that's what we do, you know. That's what we should be doing anyway. And platforms like Props just creates that. Yeah.
Exactly. And as you said, it legitimizes you. It's basically, you know, I've got 3 offers, 3 buyers, and you can see it. There it is.
Yep.
And you know, it just takes away that BS factor and that concern from the buyer that there's, you know, an agent trying to do something here that's not quite accurate. So
and then we know too, you know, buyers become sellers, right? And then the experience that they've had with you is full transparent, and then they're going to think about that, and you know, you do your follow-ups, you keep in touch, and anniversaries and blah blah blah, and then you get the sale back because you know you operated with full transparency when they were buying from you, so they want that experience again.
Exactly. just moving to the vendor piece now. So you're gathering this buyer interest, you're getting these offers. How then do you manage the conversation with the vendor?
So typically I'll share the offer. I mean, I'll share the whole thing with the owner. I might sometimes, depending who it is, I might screenshot and text them. I typically have a WhatsApp group or a Facebook group with the vendors. So we're all across that. And then I'll either follow up with a call or what do you think and things like that. And if we're getting close to the number that they're after, and then they give me that number, then I just go back and I update the marketing, put the price on it. This is what it is. You've got till midday tomorrow to come back to me. And whoever's first in, sort of best dressed, and if it's at 12 o'clock and you got one condition less than old mate, well then you're going to buy that property.
Okay.
You
I think
muted yourself, Daniel.
Sorry,
the
the tech guy can't use the tech. So in that second phase, it sounds like you actually often get it to a certain point with the vendor based on you might get the initial offers, bring it up a level based on your skill to put them up, and then you have that conversation with the vendor, and then you'll get a price from the vendor, and you go back and just say first in best dressed.
basically.
So how do you get the vendor to that level of, obviously the part of the negotiations bringing not necessarily, but sometimes bringing the vendor's expectations down and bringing the buyer's expectations up to try and meet in the middle somewhere.
That's right. So it's just the transparency piece once again. My vendors, we have a pretty good relationship, and I know what they're after. Some vendors are a bit more sort of cagey than others, but as soon as I've got that commitment, I confirm that in writing with them. We're good to go. If I come back to you at this price with this, with these conditions, are you happy to accept, and we'll get a contract on the property? The answer is yes, and then we just go. Yeah.
Perfect. Anything else to add, Adam?
No. No.
All right,
I'm good.
great.
Yeah.
All right, thank you so much for
Good on you, Daniel. I'll send my invoice to you later, mate. Thank you.
No worries.
Good on you, guys.
Cheers, mate.
Thanks,
I
mate.
think I saw Alan online. Alan, really?
G'day, how you going?
There he is. G'day, Alan. How are you?
Yeah, really well, thanks.
Good, mate. Thanks for joining. So I might actually change gears a little bit here. Obviously, we've heard from Gary and Adam in regards to more the private treaty situation. But Alan, as I understand it, you're pretty much 50% private sale, private treaty, 50% auction. Is that right?
Yep, more or less. Yep.
And you're an auctioneer yourself?
Yes.
And so, the thing that we've found with auctioneers is auctioneers love an auction. And so,
Say that like it's a bad thing.
No, it's a good thing. And so, often, there's a belief that technology would actually, potentially either take away from that auction process, if it's a digital auction, for instance, and replace that physical. Or if it's just an offer type platform, it'll actually only be applicable for private treaty or private sale. But that's absolutely not the case, and you're proof of that. So I'd love to dive into this a little bit more. Could you just talk about how you utilize props to generate that offer, those offers and that interest leading up to your auction, and then how you manage it from there, please?
Yeah, sure. So with our auctions, I've mentioned a couple of times there, we can't use price guides in Queensland, so that can be a bit of a stumbling block for some. So what we try and do is give all the information we can with our properties. So building and pest reports, council infrastructure, all the ins and outs, copies of the contract, title search, that sort of stuff, so that the buyers have got all the information that they need. And the only question left is, are they interested? Do they want to make an offer or come to the auction? And so we've been able to use props platform by uploading all the documents there, and then having a QR code available for people at the open homes. When they come through the open home, obviously they get a text message and a link that sends them to the platform as well. And what we've found, we've actually had people comment the last few weeks. We've got an auction happening on Saturday, and people coming through going, "I really like how you've got all the information in one place." So that's been really good. And we've also been able to generate, I think, yes, I'm an auctioneer and I do enjoy the auction process, but always say to our vendors and to our buyers that we're not here to have an auction. If you're interested in making and you want to make an offer, the property's for sale. So we've been able to generate offers through the platform. I think we've had 5 offers on the property that's going to auction on Saturday. And what that's done, those offers have all been within, say, $15,000 of each other, and it's given the owner a really good indication of where the market's at. So it's helped with our feedback to our owner, because obviously using Vault, those offers go straight into the reports that we send out through Vault, and so it's made it easy for buyers. They're clicking on it, checking all the information out, and making offers where they want to. Making it easier for our seller because they can see week in, week out. They can see who those buyers are that are interested, the ones that have downloaded the documents, and if they've made an offer.
Yeah, awesome. And I must admit, I love going to auctions on a weekend, even if I'm not on the market looking. But I love the theatre of it as well. So it's that process is really good, because what we always find when we're talking to agents is it's actually de-risking the auction to a degree. Like the traditional way of not actually necessarily getting offers prior. You're obviously doing your work to try and get obtain interest and understand where that interest sits prior to an auction. But that moment of silence when you open up for those first bids, you just don't know what's going to happen, right? And so we absolutely always try to recommend, if you can gather that interest, get them registered, get them to put something down as some sort of commitment level as an offer prior, at least you know what you're dealing with. At least well, I've got these 3 people, they've put in these offers at this level, and then you can have that conversation with a vendor to go, well, look, here's where I think, the market's sitting, here's where we reckon, reserves should be, and at least you've got an idea of where you could be starting to de-risk that, rather than, opening up for bids and just getting crickets.
Yep.
How do you then utilize that information to negotiate or talk to and educate the vendor around the reserve? How do you tackle that conversation?
Well, the good thing about having it in the report and having it come through, it's not me saying it, it's coming from the buyers. So we can see, and we always use in our, with our reserve meetings, we'll have a new CMA done for our owners in case there's been any relevant sales happen in the last few weeks. And then we have that report, which they've been getting each week along the way. And often we had a reserve meeting last night for the auction we've got happening on Saturday. And the owner volunteered to me, said, well, I can see this is where we need to be. And we've set what we feel is a really realistic reserve, and one that should see a good result, all going well, touch wood, on Saturday.
That's awesome. And in terms of like time on market, like what sort of is your average campaign? Are you doing the 4-week auction campaign generally?
Yeah, so auction on the 4th Saturday of marketing for us at the moment.
Yeah, okay. And what about, let's say it doesn't sell under the hammer? How do you take that process further in terms of then, converting that interest to offers again, or further offers, etc.?
Yeah, it's case by case, depends on the scenario on the day, but obviously we again have the QR code will be on display for people. They'll receive it in their text messages they come through. So we'll be able to notify people if it hasn't sold, and that'll include not just people there on the day, but people who have come through previously. So there could have been people that have come through that for whatever reason can't put their hand up on the day, so they don't come to the auction. And yeah, we'll make sure we get it out that way, and keep the platform open for people to make offers. And if we have then multiple, it just goes into a normal private treaty scenario. So if we have multiple offers coming in post the auction, that's when we'd engage that countdown timer, and depending on the number of buyers, we'd probably let buyers see where they're sitting, and hopefully get that result pretty quickly after the auction.
Amazing. Any other sort of comments from you, Alan, in terms of thoughts around the negotiation process?
I think in general it's a good I've noticed, especially for first home buyers, we deal with a lot of first home buyers here, and it's easy way for them to make an offer. Like, it's a big step for them to say, offer on this house. What do we do? But they're always online. Everything, they're very obviously digital savvy. That's how they live their lives. So to put an offer through on a platform on their phone is really easy. And so it's just a great way to break the ice for them. And then I pick up the phone and have a chat to them about what about the offer and where they're at and that sort of thing. But so I find for a lot of our buyers, it's a good way for them just to almost dip their toe in the water of making an offer on a property because they've never done it before, and makes that starting that process a lot easier for them.
Yeah, it's a really good point, and that was key to a lot of our research initially around just buyer behavior when we're looking at building the platform. Was obviously it's very simple for an agent. Agent lives and breathes it every day in terms of offers, but if it's a first time buyer, if it's someone that hasn't bought for many years, and an agent says, "You interested?" Yep, great. Okay, look, flick me through an offer, and buyers are like, "Well, what does that mean? What do I send you an email? Do I send you a text message? Do I put just a price on it? Do I have to put anything else there?" I actually don't necessarily know what that means. And so what a lot of buyers feedback is that they love the consistency of, great, I'm guided through the process. How much is this? When do you want to settle? Blah, blah, blah. All those types of questions, they're guided through that so they don't look silly in front of an agent going, "Well, sorry, I don't know what that means."
100%.
Yeah, and the other bit that you mentioned around, the tech savvy, and obviously some might think, oh, piece of technology, it's only for the tech savvy, but it's actually for everybody. The beauty is too, an agent can initiate the digital offer and actually send it through to the buyer for the buyer then to just accept. You can actually, have buyers at an open home on their phone just register interest. You can also have, buyers place offers from their home when they're sitting there with a partner, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, it just really depends on the situation, but it is open to everybody, and obviously the agent will drive the process.
Yeah, I think probably one thing for us too that has helped with our buyers, are obviously a smaller boutique agency, if you like, with there's a big Ray White presence in our market, big Collier's presence, and a couple of other, and Remax as well, and having that online platform helps the buyers. You see them sort of take notice of that and realise that we're not just a small mum and pop shop that are doing a bit of real estate. We're actually up to date with what's going on in the marketplace, and we are good. Not only are we personal, you're dealing with the owners all the time, but we're up to date with what's happening with technology in the industry as well. So I've seen a difference with the buyers when they take notice of what we've got there too.
Awesome. All right, thank you so much, Alan. Appreciate you jumping on board, mate.
No worries.
And I've actually just noticed a few comments coming through as we go. So thank you everybody for those comments along the way. Look, I think my time's up, Manos. So yeah, I just wanted to finish with, look, the whole point of this session was to try and again get you to think about how you can utilize technology to actually improve and enhance the way you do things. It's not change, and basically adopt a very different process to what you're doing. It's about how you can actually utilize technology to align to your process so that the tech is an enabler to help make you more efficient, help create that consistency, help provide that transparency, help make you more compliant, all those types of elements. But you are at the center of tech every time. Good technology shouldn't work without an agent. You have to have the agent providing the guidelines, providing the process, providing the structure. But if it can actually help you and enhance it in some way, then it's doing its job. So back to you, Manos.
Thank you so much, Daniel. And thank you, Adam, Gary, and Alan. Absolutely invaluable insights, especially with agents actually using it in the field. And of course, all of you having just a slight different approach. I think that's the most important thing, is for everyone to understand you need your own approach. And going back to what, obviously, when we commenced the session today, the psychology, what everyone is thinking, and using your current situation and taking out the benefits. And a great comment from Marion in ACT, Alice Springs. They're experiencing one of the toughest buyer markets that she's experienced in 30 years and being in the industry. And whilst we understand there's always going to be buyer's market, balanced market and a seller's market, where's the advantage? And you've got to start thinking, where's the advantage to the buyers in this point in time, but still protecting the interests of your vendor, just not because they're going to get the homes at a lower price, which is very likely because competition obviously drives prices up. We understand that, and we're there to maximize the vendor's price in the current marketplace. We can't pull out figures just because the vendor, as we all know, wants a particular price or if the market's changed. But just understanding that in a buyer's market, the advantage to the buyer is they get to choose the property they really want because they're not in competition with a whole bunch of other buyers. That's a really important dialogue to have with your buyers. Well, currently, yes, it's a buyer's market. Not necessarily you're going to get the biggest discount on your property, but you're actually going to choose the property you want because you've got choice at the moment. Don't wait for it to turn. So use that to your advantage. And of course, using the digital and the offer platforms to create that fear of missing out. Did you want it to change to be competitive? Is that what you want? Or are you going to wait for it? Because we know the troughs and the peaks in real estate now are no longer protracted. They're very, very narrow. So, being at the bottom of the market at the moment, which I feel we are in Melbourne, that could change in the next 2 to 3 weeks, in the next weekend, let alone a couple of months. But thank you once again. Let's give a big virtual round of applause to the guys. Absolutely invaluable. And I hope it's okay, Daniel, for people to reach out to you directly to get some guidance on the platform. If they want more
100%.
information, of course, directly to the agents that are actually using it, the agents in the field. So thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, you can email me, jump on the website, any.
Perfect. Thank you.
I'll tuck my email in the message.
Done.
Thank you.
Okay, so now over to Michael. And Michael has, as I mentioned, a veteran in real estate for over 15 years. And he has a proven method in obviously the closed offer and best offer strategies. You use a little bit of digital as well. Correct me if I'm wrong, Michael.
Yeah, I use props as well. I use props as
fantastic.
an initial offer form, and that's a starting process for sure.
Perfect. Well, I'm handing it straight over to you. Go for it.
So it's really important, I think, what the guys have spoke about. Everyone has their own way of doing things, and you'll find that there's things that you'll tweak. What I did 10 years ago and what I did 5 years ago and what I do today, it's always slightly improving. And that's from doing training like this, where you pick up little nuanced bits and pieces from different people that you can implement really easily. So if there's a couple little things that I mentioned today that you might already be having a really great strategy, and then you might pick up something that I do or say, that if you can implement, can make a genuine difference for your owners every single time. And so Manos had mentioned at the start that you really should be able to articulate your process. And that's from a listing presentation and showing the owner how you work to represent the value, as opposed to just being a deal maker and an order taker, is how you can influence the outcome, influence the buyers to get their maximum offers. So for the most part, my private sales strategy, so I don't really do auctions at all. Maybe 1 in 25 homes I'll take to auction. I have a private sales / tender strategy. So a lot of agents will know what a sale by set date is in Melbourne, which is where I'm based. Barry Plan are big on sale by set dates. There's a few agencies that have a fixed date sale. We're in a tough market, and we have been for about 2.5 years, but I've been doing this for 14 years, and I've been through a few different cycles, and the strategies work to varying effects at different times. And what I'm finding at the moment is that to give an auction process where you're giving someone, say, 4 weeks before the deadline, or a sale by set date where you're giving someone 4 weeks before the closing deadline, you may get the hottest buyer that comes and sees the house in the very first week. And in a market where they've got so much choice, do you think there's a really good chance that that buyer is still going to be there in 3 or 4 weeks' time? And so for me, in this market, the way we're dealing, I'm not setting a publicly advertised set date sale or closing date sale. And a big part of that is because if we do get that really strong initial interest, you need to maximize and capitalize on that. So I still do, my intention when I've got a process, and so this is just more like a holistic view, is we want to be creating competition. So everything you do, even in a down market, if you price it well enough, you will get competition. Like maybe not in Alice Springs, but I can still tell you here, even in a slowly declining market, there are still buyers around. People still want to make decisions, but they're often waiting for somebody else, that herd mentality and their safety in numbers to make an offer when everybody else does. So you'll find, they'll sit on their hands and they have the opportunity to negotiate directly with the owner, but as soon as you get another offer, that's when people will then go, oh shit, we should also do the same thing. So very much like the other three guys mentioned before, having a scenario where you want to get multiple offers if you have the opportunity to do so in the market where you can do it. And we have guys here today that, people from the West that have got a thumping market in Perth, and Adelaide's been thumping and Brisbane's been going really well. So, my strategy has been very similar over quite a long period of time in really strong markets and in down markets. So the first part in the evolution of it was when you're accepting an offer, a lot of agents in our area will give a best and final one chance only to make an offer. That we're setting a closing date by Tuesday at midday, and you have one opportunity to make an offer. Once we hit that deadline, nothing's been disclosed, no price has been disclosed, no buyer knows where they sit. And if they miss out on the property, whether it's $500 out or $50,000 more than the second best buyer, they don't know. And then the owner makes a decision based off that. And so it's a process where you often get, and people will attest to this, so they've had these experiences, you often can get a buyer that will pay 50 grand more than the second best buyer. And so this is something where if you have an auction process and it's so transparent, you're never getting $50,000 more, on an average sale price of 700, 800,000. People aren't outbidding the second best buyer by 50 grand. They're just trying to beat the other buyer. So in an auction scenario, and my problem with an auction, for the most part, they can be brilliant, but you need a lot of things going really, really well. You need buyers to have the same budget. They need to think the property is worth the same amount, and they all need to be there on the day. And so if you have that, people will go to what their limit is, they'll go to what their budget is, and then they'll get, hopefully get a little carried away in that environment, and then the price pushes up. But what if a buyer is willing to pay 50 grand more than the other person, or they see value beyond that? And so when I'm speaking with my owners, the integrity side of things is extremely important. I never lie to buyers, but I pick my words really carefully. So when I have a better offer, I will tell them I have a better offer. But if you have someone that is offering, $50,000 more than the other person, you don't want to be talking them out of it and going, oh guys, you don't need to be offering that amount. You should just be offering. So you can be a little bit too transparent. And so I think if you're making offers from the get-go and you're being really transparent, you're telling every single buyer what the offer is at every single point, you do miss out on that opportunity to get an exceptional buyer to make an exceptional offer. So my strategy is initially when buyers are making offers, we get the initial offer, and then I notify every other party that's been involved that we have an offer that's on the table. The intention obviously to get competition, but I do it in a way where I want my buyers to feel really comfortable about the process. And so I say, guys, thank you so much for making your offer. We've got a lot of buyers that have been interested in the property, so I am going to be speaking with the owner about your offer. But what I can tell you is it's really unlikely they're going to make a decision today, but I will come back to you. We're going to give you a few days to do some due diligence, make sure you've read the Section 32, that you've spoken with your conveyancer, that you've spoken with your broker. You can bring your family back for another inspection if you want to, so that when things are finally coming to a head, you're making a really informed decision. And then when I'm calling all the buyers that haven't offered yet, and I'm notifying them that we have an offer, which usually comes through via props, then I'm letting them know the same thing, that we've got an offer that's on the table, that the owner is wanting to make a decision, and that we're setting a closing date. Now, I don't publicly advertise that date initially because I feel like, as I mentioned at the start, you don't want to be giving people 2 or 3 weeks to get their offers in. It's not going to create enough urgency in a market like we're dealing with. And I also don't have a fixed strategy where it has to be the next day, or it has to be a Tuesday, or it has to be a Thursday. And that always just depends on what the offers we're getting are and how compelling they are, how many interested buyers we have, and what the likelihood of we're getting 2 offers or 6 offers. It's all really important information. If you're getting 2 offers, you don't need to draw it out to, 4 or 5 days from that point. You've got a really good chance, once you've exhausted all interest, you know who's in and who's out, you could set a closing date, the next day. But if you do have 3, 4, 5, 6 parties that you're confident are going to make offers, and you have other buyers that you're wanting to get through additional, Tuesday opens or whatever it is before you set your date, it's a win-win where the buyers get more opportunity to do their due diligence. They can come back and have another look, but we're giving ourselves the opportunity to get more buyers through and then hopefully get offers. So when it comes to that point where people are making their offers, they'll often ask in our area, what's your process? Because they've dealt, like the buyers will often, unless it's the first property they're making an offer on, they're making a decision on how they offer and their own personal strategy based on their previous experiences. If they've dealt with agents like a lot are in our area that are either the deal makers, buyer makes an offer, they present it straight to the owner may have a counter offer, or they may accept it, and it's literally just a conduit between the buyer and the vendor, no negotiation, they're just really listening to what the vendor's saying, listening to what the buyer's saying, and just trying to get a deal done. There are agents that are at that level. And then you have other agents that have that strategy where it's a best and final offer scenario, and they don't disclose the offers like I mentioned before. And that still can be a really good option, which I used to do about 10 years ago, 8 or 10 years ago, where I would find regularly, guys, this is your one chance to make an offer. You have until 5 o'clock tomorrow to get your offer in. I can't disclose what the offers are. You need to put your best and final offer in. And then if you miss out, you're not kicking yourself. And it's not what I've learned over the years, and I haven't done it for many years, is buyers really don't feel comfortable with that process, but it still can yield great results. So it's not a great experience for the buyer, but it still will sometimes get that buyer that offers, the $20,000, $50,000, $80,000 more than your second buyer. You give yourself that chance to do it, but it's still not a great way of going about it. And the evolution of that process was I would then call back buyers and I would say, unfortunately, guys, you've missed out on the property when they were the second or third offer. And then they would want to increase their offer after. So once I took the property away from them and said, unfortunately, you've missed out, all of a sudden they would come up with all these extra funds. And so what I'd worked out from that point and the evolution of the strategy was, this isn't the best way to go about it. It's great to get an offer that's exceptional, or you get multiple eyes that put in exceptional offers, but you have to give the buyer the opportunity to put in their best, and it has to be their decision whether they buy it or they don't. So as agents, what I often hear from buyers when they're making offers are that when I explain to them my process, that my strong advice is for you to put your best offer up front. Because if there's a clear standout offer, often it can just buy it. But what I can promise you is that if things are close, I will come back to you and I'll give you a chance to revise. So this is going to be your choice if you guys buy it, and it'll be your choice if you miss out. It won't be my decision. And I often get buyers who will say, well, thank you so much. We missed out on something recently. We're willing to pay more, and the agent wouldn't even take the offer. And it really pisses them off. So what I found is buyers don't get pissed off if they miss out and it's their call. They get pissed off if they make an offer and you take it away from them without them giving a chance to put in their absolute best. So when I have my initial round of offers I'm encouraging them to put their best offers forward, because as I said, I want that. If you're too transparent and you're telling them what the first offer is, someone offers 720 and then they say, hey mate, we want to also make an offer. Where are your offers at? If you're, too gung-ho and you go, well, we've got an offer that's at 720 because you're trying to be so transparent, well, then you've just told that buyer that may have been willing to pay 750 or 770 that they just have to beat that 720. And so a bit of ambiguity, a bit of holding your cards close to your chest, I think can help you get that initial offer. So we get this first range of offers that are best and final, but I've sort of pre-framed that I will come back to them. I then present those offers to the owner and I tell the owner about the process. So they're not expecting, because they've offered 750 up front, they're definitely going to go to 770. Sometimes I would say 1 in 3 buyers will genuinely put in their best offer up front. But there is another third that might go up $1,000 or $5,000. They might tweak their conditions, but often there are buyers that will jump 20, 30, 40 grand if you give them the opportunity to do so. So I present those initial offers, whether they are 2, 3, 4, 5, doesn't really matter in that competition, that scenario of competition. But when they're making that initial best and final offer, present it to the owner, get an understanding of what their preference is, this price, this settlement date, these terms, which offer are you leaning towards taking Manos? And then we go back to all the buyers. And what I do is I start from the lowest offer, and then I will call through those offers as I work up to the highest. And the lowest offer, if I have, just say, again, if I have a scenario where there's someone that's offered 750, we've got a 770, and we've got a 780. When I call that 750 buyer, I don't say, hey guys, just so you know, you're the third highest buyer, and if you want to go ahead with the property, you need to increase your offer and give them no feedback whatsoever, because they might then increase $5,000 and it was for no reason whatsoever. They really need, if it's a large amount, 20, 30, 40, 50 grand, they do need some sort of benchmark to work off that they may not trust me. I hope that they have, because they've had good dealings, and I'll go into some detail on that after. But if they genuinely trust you as the agent, and you're giving them the opportunity to make their offer, and then you give them an indication of where the second, like the highest offer is sitting and where they need to be. That I found gives a much better chance of them saying, thanks, Michael, we appreciate you just telling us and you're being transparent, we're out. Or it's, okay, let me speak to my partner, and then they choose to also increase. And so let's say that 750 now goes to 775, and now they're the highest offer. When I'm calling the second offer, I'm then telling them about where they're sitting in the situation and where the other offer is that's at the highest. And hopefully by the time you get to what was originally the best offer, they're no longer the best offer. I mentioned earlier about the transparency and me picking and choosing my words really carefully, is that you never want to be lying to buyers, but you're choosing your words really carefully. If I have a better offer, I will tell them, but only if it serves our interest and only if it's in my owner's best interest. The same scenario is if we have an offer that's at 770, another one's at 775, the other one's at 777, being really transparent about where the offers are. If people are drying up and they're not willing to push anymore, well, if it's really close, they may find an extra couple of grand. But in that instance, I'm more likely to say, there are 3 offers on the table. You're really, really close, but I can't give you an indication of where the offers are at. What is your best and final offer? At this stage, you're going to miss out. And so you want them to use their imagination, because again, if they're willing to pay 10, but I've put a figure in their mind of you can go 2 or 5, they're just going to go at whatever they need to beat the other person. So it's not a hard and fast rule on how I approach it. A huge part of it is just the nuance of every conversation, how you're dealing with that buyer. Is there a lot of trust there? Are they a person that I feel needs to know what the other prices are in order for them to move? That they're really stuck and they need that transparency? Or if they're a person that, they're going to get emotionally carried away, and by just giving them a reference of where they're sitting in the pecking order and that you need to improve your offer may be enough for them to jump. So it's something that it's the initial phase of best and final best offers, with the option that if things are really close, I'll come back to you. I then present those offers to the owner. I then go back to the lower offer and work them up in the order of bottom, second, third, to see if they can leapfrog the top. But I effectively just go back and forth until I have every single person's best and final walk away. They know they're going to miss out offer. And that's the dialogue. Manos, so you know that you're at 775 at the moment. I have an offer that's at 780,000. Based on where things are at the moment, you're going to miss out. Are you absolutely sure? Yes, Michael, I'm certain this is us done. And then I'll go through the next buyers, confirm again, you're absolutely done. Okay, now we'll go another couple of grand, whatever it is. But you just get to the point where it's every single conversation is getting them to their absolute walk away. And the guys, I really want this. I'm not trying to push you, Manos. I just really want this to be your decision if you buy it or you don't. So that if you miss out, you're not calling me saying, mate, I'll increase. And keep going to that point until they're completely done. Now, when I've got that, and where I feel like I've got my final offers and everybody's absolutely out, I then will go back to the owner and say, guys, this is where the offers were. You saw them as before. This is where they are now. And actually, there's a point that I skipped there, is every increase, it's really important. It's not specifically on negotiating, but it is on vendor management. I'm sure we've all had scenarios where you have, you've got these amazing offers and you've been doing all this work behind the scenes to get buyers up. And then you present it to the owner and they go, great, Michael, they're at 780,000. Do you reckon you can get them to 790? And they haven't been on the journey of every offer and every improvement. And so they don't, even though you've done all this work behind the scenes, they're not aware of it. So whether you use props to update your owner, or you just do it like I do, is we have WhatsApp group for every vendor, and I'll just send a quick message saying, buyer number 2 or Jenny and Michael, they're now at 771. And just do little updates along the way, and you get the owner interacting the whole way through that, like sending messages back going, oh shit, that's awesome, or whatever it is. They're involved in the process. So, but I have this thing at the end where I'm presenting all the offers to the owner, and then they decide, yep, Michael, this is the offer I want to go with, the price, the terms, all those sort of factors. This is the one we're going with. But we call it our, sorry you've missed out call. So when you're saying to a buyer, I need your absolute best, and that you're going to miss out, but they haven't actually missed out yet, I'll give buyers a call and I'll say, guys, unfortunately, you've given it your best, but the owner's decided to go with another offer. And this is another evolution over time on how I've negotiated, is I would find that maybe 1 in 10 of those buyers, the occasional ones, that even though they told me multiple times, Michael, we are done, absolutely done. When I call them and say, unfortunately, you have missed out and the other buyer's offer has been accepted, you do find those people that will then miraculously find a couple of grand. They'll speak to their family, they'll speak to the parents, they'll go back to the bank and they'll find some more money. And so it was through, trial and error and a long period of time of feeling like you're getting every single cent, that you start from best and final offers to then going, actually, no, buyers did have some money left over. Now it's best and final, but then to try and get that big gap of offers, but then go back and forth and negotiate, to then calling the buyers and saying, you've missed out, and then getting the odd person that goes, actually, Michael, increase, but you've already told the other person that they've got it. And then you're dealing with that weird scenario where you've told a buyer you've got it, and you call the buyers that have missed out saying, unfortunately, you missed out, and now they're trying to increase. So the final sort of phase to the negotiation process for me is I make that sorry you've missed out call to everybody that's missed out before I call the buyer and tell them they've got it. So the best offer doesn't get told first anymore that they're the best offer and the owner's accepting their offer. We call and tell every other buyer that's missed out that they've missed out first, in the off chance that somebody is willing to increase that a little bit further. You haven't shot yourself in the foot by telling the highest buyer originally that they are and they've got it. You can then go back to them and say that another buyer's increased. And so this is sort of a thing that I'll demonstrate to my owners in a listing presentation, probably not as long as this and not in as much detail, but it's all about leaving no stone unturned, and every level of negotiator, of the deal maker, the order taker, the best and final offer, the transparent auction process, to then the best and final, but then you still go back after, all the little nuances to represent and show the difference that you can make, that an additional $1,000 or $5,000 can be life-changing to people. And one thing that I've found, that this was really good feedback recently, is how through this process, the feedback I get directly from buyers when they miss out. So thank you so much, Michael. I know we missed out. If you get anything else that suits, we'd really love for you to keep us in the loop. The feedback I get from buyers so often now is that they're really appreciative that at least it was their call that they missed out, as opposed to a lot of other agents in the area that just simply, they sell it to somebody else and it's not really their call, and they're left with a really bad taste in their mouth. And it's to the point where I had one recently with Leon Zudema. I didn't even know this. So Leon's a colleague from our office, and some buyers about a year ago, missed out on a home with me in Frankston, multiple offer scenario, went through the whole process, sold above the range. It was a really great campaign. And I completely forgot who these people were. So they're still looking a year later, by the way. And they had spoken to my mate Leon, and one of our agents, and they said that they asked him what his process is like. And then he had told them how he deals with it. And they said, oh, we've actually got a vision board at home, and we've been looking for a property for a year. And on our vision board, we want to buy a house through Michael McClure. And he's like, that's a pretty odd thing for someone to say. And that's weird for me to hear that as well. But they literally said that. And it was because of how they felt throughout that process, that the person they wanted to buy from, or the agent they wanted to deal with, they wanted someone that made them feel like it was in their control when they buy the home, and they don't. And I honestly don't remember who they are, but they remember who I am. And so they're effectively a raving fan of mine, and I genuinely don't know who they are, and they never bought from me, and they actually missed out on a property with me. And so it's probably that was a good little eye-opener, going, are you running a process where the buyers that miss out on your properties want to come back and buy through you? That they see a property with you and they go, that's the agent. Oh shit, he's got a good one. Let's go and see it. Because I'm sure we've all heard of scenarios where buyers have missed out on a property and they've had a really bad experience, and they'll say, I'm never going to see that house. Doesn't matter how good it is, because the agent's a dickhead, or they were dodgy, or they were sleazy, or whatever it is. And so you can be both ends of the scale, and you need to ask yourself, in my process, am I getting buyers thanking me at the end of it when they miss out on the homes that I'm selling? Sorry, I just went nuts for a bit there.
But Mark, who thought that was absolutely brilliant? I mean, just like everyone else, but who could relate to the confidence that Michael has in his negotiation process? So going back to understanding your process, to you use nuances so many times in your dialogue, Michael. Really well done, and hence why the results are actually evident. You go into Michael's profile, his average sale price compared to the competitors is far greater than competitors who are selling more homes. So, this is a classic example of, and I've put it in the chat box, that the biggest decision a seller makes is the agent they use to represent them in the sale of their price. That's going to impact their result more than anything. So really well done, Michael. That was absolutely invaluable. And you're using technology and the human element, as Daniel said, because it doesn't replace. You've got to use it where to your best advantage. Really well done. Really well done. Thank you
You
so
still have to
much.
pick. Thank you. You still have to pick up the phone as well. So the props side of things is awesome, and I definitely use it. But I make sure that I don't want buyers to just be increasing their offers because they've seen what somebody else has offered. I want to be having those conversations with them so I can influence the outcome. That I can have those conversations and talk to them about why this property is really important to them, about what their needs were and what, like, how long they've been looking. Like, Manos, you've been looking for 9 months. You've been telling me at the start, like, you can have those conversations, but if they see an offer, maybe you can't move the needle as much. And it's massively about a win-win scenario. So when I'm in the lounge room with my owners, and every owner can relate to this, is that even if you have an agent that has your best interests at heart only, they wanting to get Manos, they want to get you every single cent possible, but they treat their buyers like second-class citizens, or they've got poor service and they don't call them back, or they mislead them, or whatever it is. They're doing great work for you in their efforts, but they're not really looking after their buyers. That buyer won't trust them. And if the buyer doesn't trust them, they're not going to give them their best offer, which means that it in turn costs you as the owner money. So what you want is a win-win scenario. You win because you get the best price possible, and you'll see through this strategy on how we do that. But the buyer wins because they get the home they want. They do it they're negotiating in a process where they feel comfortable, and they've had time to review their Section 32, and they've had their second inspection, and all those sort of factors when they're not feeling rushed. That when they buy it, they're stoked because they bought the home they want. And if they miss out, it's their call. And every owner that I speak to like that, they always go, yeah, that's what we dealt with. When we bought, we felt like a shitty situation or whatever it is. People can relate to that. They want their buyers to have a good experience, but they want, every cent possible.
Brilliant, Michael. Really well done. Really well explained. So yeah, thank you so much. Big round of applause, virtual applause, team. And now over to the master himself as well, Mr. Jarrod Carman, who again uses such a mix of negotiations. As I mentioned earlier, JC is the master of reading the play, mirroring people's behavior. Obviously, having a psychology degree kind of helps. Over to you, JC.
Well, Michael just stole all my words, so pretty much what he does, just repeat it. It's very important to have a process, 100%. It's really important to have a process for yourself and your own structure within it. But I think you still have to have a bit of flexibility within that structure, depending on the buyers you're dealing with and depending on the vendors you're dealing with. So my process is fairly similar to Michael's. If we're talking about private sales, yes, I do some options. It's about probably a quarter option to private sales. Yes, we do sale by set dates depending on the property. It depends on the vendor's expectation, depends on their timelines as well. So whatever I do, I cater to that particular vendor, that particular scenario, and what they're really after. So as Michael mentioned towards the end there, everything is about rapport and trust. And when you have people's rapport and trust, you can ask them any question and you can get to any result. So it's really, really important that all of you and all of your communication, you understand your vendor's motivation, why they're selling, why they're moving, so you can relate to that later when you are getting offers, or why you're not getting offers. Why are they moving? What's the expectation? And you can tap into those deep human connections within that. And it's the same with buyers. So guys, if you don't know why your buyers are buying, then it's so much harder to get to a better price. So if you are just purely relying on tech, and no disrespect to technology at all, it's fantastic and we use it within our business. But if you're just relying on that and countdown clocks to get people to act, you're missing out on a massive part of getting the best for people and an opportunity to build rapport for future business as well. So it is really important to pick up the phone. It's critical to make those conversations. Now, how my process works, we do a little bit of technology, but we will always send out a pro forma to people on how to put an offer forward, what we need, what we expect, but it will always be on a contract. We've had situations before where I've taken verbal offers and relayed them to the vendor. The success rate of that is always much, much lower than if you actually get people to commit on a piece of paper that is the contract, because they start taking ownership of it. The purchasers start believing that they have got the chance to actually own the property. Don't have issues with it later. We didn't realise that it had this in the contract. We didn't realise it had that in the contract. So no, we want to change the negotiation now after it's been accepted. Right, so that's a really important part of it for us, is those initial offers have to be on a contract, so we know they're serious, we know they're about it. But for me, it's all about language. It's the language you use, it's the communication you use. When you're getting first offers, we don't disclose that first offer, because similar to Michael, I don't want someone to put in an offer for 700,000 and then you release that to the next person who is likely to offer 750, for example. So, you know, and then they say, oh, we'll offer 701 because the other offer offered 700. So I'm a little bit loose about that first one. But language is really important, and you want to tap into people's modalities. And what I mean by that, everyone's a visual, auditory, kinesthetic communicator, but some people have the modality that I prefer. So I tend to communicate in language that makes sense for that particular buyer and for the vendor as well. So when you're asking things like, can you see yourself in the property? I'm tapping into visual people. I'll focus in on them. You know, what does it sound like for the kids playing in the backyard? Those sort of things are really important language you can use to get people to tap into their emotional modality that they use within purchasing property. All right. So actually, Manos, you brought out some books. I'm going to jump around a little bit. Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss. A few other books, and I'll put them in the chat here. Getting to Yes by Roger Fisher, I think it is. And The Absolute Master, Dr. Robert Cialdini, Influence, The Psychology of Persuasion. Anything that Robert Cialdini has written, read it, study it, absorb it, because it will help you close so many more deals if you understand simple psychology. Now, the reason why people want other people to offer is that as human beings, we want our opinions validated by other people, because then we feel safe. If there are no other offers, then everybody asks the same question, especially if a house has sat on the market for a while. What's wrong with it? And the subtext of that in their own brain is, am I making a mistake if I'm putting an offer in on something that no one else likes? So our job is to try and make people feel comfortable about putting offers forward, even if they're doubting themselves. So we have to help people get out of their own way. And language is really important for that. One of the best questions you can ask someone, if you know you've got no other offers, no interest in the property at all, and they're hitting you up and saying, you know, are there any other people interested? Just a simple question of, does it make a difference to you if I tell you there's an offer on the table? It's not saying there is an offer on the table, but does it make a difference to you if there is? And people will usually trigger and go, well yeah, we like it, even if they tell you they don't like it. So language is critical in how you communicate with people. So yes, these guys have talked about their process. My process is similar. We get offers in to begin with, and then I send a text message out to every single person that's been through the property, even if they tell us they don't like it, and anyone that's inquired, even if they said they don't. There's so many people, when they realize there's an offer on the table, kick something into their brain that they go, well, actually, we didn't like it, but other people liked it, so maybe we do like it. Human psychology, it's very interesting. And we will get offers from people who said initially, no, we're not that interested. We get initial offers, and then I go to the vendor firstly. I let them know where those offers are. After, I ask them where their expectations are. Even though at the initial meeting, I know what their expectations are, I know what their motivations are, people change. When it goes on the market, they get caught up in the excitement of it. They talk to their friends that tell them the house is too cheap. They talk to other people who are experts. Another agent might have landmined you and said that it's, you know, you're under the market by 100 grand, which yes, happens in our area. So their attitudes change. So I always ask them, are your expectations the same as when we first went on the marketplace? So how are you feeling about the pricing at the moment? And we're getting offers in, but what's a happy price for you guys? I always want to get that commitment, because if we start getting offers, and as Michael mentioned, you can get amazing offers. You do this insane process where you're going back and forwards and you're disclosing where the prices are to all the buyers. You get to a level that you think is amazing, and you drop it on the vendor's lap and they go, that's great. Let's get some more. It's like, there is no, we've exhausted everybody. So that is one of the most critical conversations you can have, is getting the vendor tied down to what they're willing to take. And then if you exceed that, you exceed their expectations, you'll come out an absolute hero. So I'm sure most of you do it, but if you ever lose out on that process and you forget to do that and get the commitment from them, then the chances are you won't get it across the line. So that's a really important thing to remember. And use tight our language. Use the sort of language that kind of ties the vendor to that if they then renege, they're going against themselves. Okay. There are so many amazing linguistic tactics you can use. I think if anybody studies neuro-linguistic programming, it's an amazing thing to do. Don't use it for evil, use it for good. You know, there's so much in language that you can get people to commit to certain things. You know, and saying things you, like me, understand that, you know, when you're negotiating, you want to try and be transparent. If you listen to the subtext of that, I've just told you what it like me. So there's such cool things you can do in language. It's fascinating, and you can get your vendors to commit to things if you're tapping into their emotional tie to why they're selling in the first place. So I always relay back to that when we have negotiations. It's, does this allow you to move forward with your plans of what you described to me of getting to the bigger house that you wanted to get to? I know financially we're not where we thought we would be, but does it still allow you to do that? And can you see yourselves living in that new house? Right. So language is critical. Of all, when we're negotiating with buyers, I will always get the first offers. We then do disclose. I just do disclose every offer as they come in if we've got multiple buyers. I'm open, I'm transparent, and I tell people at the front, that's how it will go. The first thing I ask buyers is, have they put offers in on anything else? Have they gone through the process before? And what's your expectation of the process? And then I explain what ours will be so that they get a level of comfort in it. I tell them openly and honestly, I will never make offers up, ever. If I tell you there's an offer on the table, it's a genuine offer, and I'll tell you exactly where it is. I'm not going to risk my reputation on one sale. So I'm always really open and transparent about that. I think that's critical because it helps you build rapport. Now, if you guys in Queensland, it's a lot harder because you can't, right? So that's a legal thing that you can't do that. I'm a bit perplexed by that because you should be able to have the flexibility to choose a process that works for you and for your clients. But yeah, I find the transparency is really important because people do then trust you that you're telling them the truth. And you can say things like, if they get angry at you, because they do at times, when you've gone back to them and said, I've got a higher offer, they've gone $10,000 more than you guys, what would you like to do? We'll go $1,000 more. So guys, can I ask you this question? If you were the vendor and someone went $1,000 higher than someone else, would that make a difference to you? They'll usually answer their own question. So no, you're right. Give us time to think about it. We'll come back to you. I give people time. I don't use countdown clocks because I've found in the past that for me, I could have milked more money out of it if I gave people time. And not so much milk more money, that sounds awful. I would have allowed people the option to be able to go further for themselves if they wanted to buy it. So time is really important. You've got to read the play sometimes and just be able to be adaptive to what's happening with the clients. They might need to talk to someone, might need to talk to a family member to get more money, you might need to talk to the bank. It's just time to process it, to realise that they're going to be selling things. But I will always relay back when they're umming and ahhing about putting further offers in and missing out on the place. I'll always try and tap into an emotional trigger of why they're looking for the property in the first place. So I know they want a bigger house for their kids. I know they want a pool for their kids, or I know they want to get out of a big house area and something like that, whatever that emotional trigger is, and I will hone in on it, not nastily, but if they're umming and ahhing about putting an offer forward and going that extra step and putting down the extra 20 grand, I will ask them in their modality, you know, how will the kids feel about it if they're not able to play in the backyard? Is that worth going that extra mile for you? You know, there's things that you can say and ask that helps people to get inside their own head to understand that it's the right thing for themselves. Otherwise, if it's just about the money, if it's just someone else has put in a higher offer, they kind of get mad at the process. But when you relate it back to the reasons that they're purchasing, they'll go, yep, I totally understand what you're saying. Yep, you're right, we will go further. Sometimes they need time to marinate on that. So process is important, but the human connection and the understanding to why they're looking for that property, whether it be an investment or a home you live in, that is the most important part out of the whole entire process. And the only way you get that is through communication on the phone and talking to them. Otherwise, we can be replaced by AI. We can be replaced by an auction now site. We can be totally replaced. So it is important that you tap into those human emotions. I keep my vendors informed the whole way. Next offer that we get, vendors know it. We're now at here. If we're above where they want to be, sometimes I back off the communication and just drop it on their lap once we're $50,000, $100,000 more, and just blow the socks off. They absolutely love that. But it is important to keep them informed as well and keep them in the loop. So I find that is critical, because otherwise, like I said before, if you just go through all this in the background, do all the disclosing and let everybody know where it is, you've burnt your buyers. If the vendors turn around and say, no, we expect more than that, what's going on? Auctions are fun. Any auctioneers out there, they are great fun. The transparency, I love it, because it's all about building rapport. And a great question to ask your buyers, especially at auctions, I learned this from Peter Gadoris: do I have your permission to sell it to the other group? It releases you, and it puts them in the headspace of, no, actually, you don't have my permission. I want this place. People will compete. They want to fight for something if they are emotionally attached to it. So emotion is everything, guys. If you can get people emotionally involved and picturing themselves, feeling themselves in a property, and you're helping them achieve that rather than being a barrier to it, you'll go a long way and you'll have longevity in the marketplace, and people will actually appreciate what you do, not just. I find if you're not honest with disclosing, or you just say, sorry, I can't tell you, it must be really hard for you guys in Queensland, I can't tell you where the other offers are, or I'm not going to tell you, or I'm not obliged to tell you. I think that doesn't help to build rapport with people and gain trust, because trust is everything. People will go a lot further. And understand that some people would think that if someone's putting an offer forward and you disclose where that offer is, that they're just going to go a little bit more above it. They won't if you're having the right conversations with them. Right? Dialogue is everything. Communication is everything. Listening and understanding why someone wants the property in the first place is the first key. You have that first key down, you listen for understanding, and you listen to why they want something, and then you fulfill that need, and you're referring back to it. Remember initially why you told me you were looking for the property, and you're going to allow just the process or the price to stop you from having that. What do we do next, guys? Communication is the key.
Absolutely, JC. That was absolutely brilliant. Who loved Jazz? Yeah, that's absolutely brilliant, JC. Fantastic dialogue, as Michael put into the thing. Do I have your permission to sell the home to the other buyers? That's absolute gold, and of course you can use it in private sales as much as you do in auction. And you know what I'm excited about this session, because this is going to be all transcribed, put into our AI coach, Black Salt's AI coach, and everyone's going to be able to have these conversations with AI JC, AI Michael McClure, AI Daniel Bignold. I think that's the exciting part about it. So really, really valuable. Who's enjoyed? Any questions for the guys, team, as we come to a close? Any questions? Anyone wants to ask a question? Jazz, go for it.
Question for JC. JC, how are you?
Good, mate. Yeah, really good.
Long time. A scenario, let's say for an example, you only got one offer,
Yes.
and the property's been on the market for a long time, and obviously the vendor's missed out before. The buyer's already at a certain level which the vendor will accept, but you'll still try to potentially get more because you feel the buyer would probably pay more. And you spoke to the buyer, you got him up to a certain level which is way beyond what the vendor wanted, and way beyond the purchaser started, and they've come up, and you only got one buyer. How you try to sort of keep it safe so that purchaser at that time doesn't feel that, did I just offer too much?
Yeah. It's a good one, because a lot of people will. A lot of people get that buyer's remorse afterwards. Again, mate, it's just about how you communicate it to them, and how it ties back to them. And if they've been looking for a long time, you can just say, guys, I know you've been looking for a really long time, and how fantastic is it that you found the place that you really want, and it's going to be yours. You know, it can be simple as that. That you're giving them comfort. That price is then taken out of the equation. It's not about how much they paid for the place, but it's about what the house is going to represent for them moving forward as a home. So, take price out of the equation and hopefully give them comfort in that the decision they're making is the best one for their future. And if they have children, everybody will always do anything for their kids. They'll relate to their children. They want time with their children. So if you can relate that back to them getting what they want in time and freedom, they will always just relax and go, okay, cool. That's not about the money. But if you had a process where you haven't been open and transparent and honest and gained their trust and built rapport, then they're going to suffer a lot more remorse.
Yeah, gotcha.
Not going to feel comfortable. Does that make sense?
Definitely. Now, thanks for that. Let's say, for example, would you time it before you say yes to the final offer? Or would you say, let's say, for example, your vendor said yes to you before even the purchaser gave a final offer, because you know the vendor will take anything above that.
Yep.
Obviously, you update the contracts, you get them to initial it again. And would you give a few hours before you go back to them and say,
yes, timing is really important. If you rush too much, you've got to think from the human perspective. If they feel that it was too easy. I've had situations like this before where people, they'll put massive offers in, and then you go back and go, you got it. They're like, hang on, that was a bit too easy, a bit too quick. I'll always use things like, look, I've had a couple of conversations with the vendors since we last spoke, and they were a little bit nervous about moving forward with it, as they probably are, as everyone would be. I'll never lie about things, but I've had a couple of conversations with the vendors, and look, they would love to have you on their home. So, I think that sort of conversation is better than, hey, the vendor signed, it's done, it's yours. You can use things that help tie them to the property and the connection to the vendor. The real art form for us, the real secret of negotiation, is to get two parties to like each other, having never met each other and probably never will meet each other. So it's important that the language that you use is favourable of the vendors and of the purchasers as well. Right? So you should never say things like, oh no, the vendors won't take that, they're not going to accept that. Your language is so important. They're really appreciative of the offer, but it's not quite at their expectations and what they feel the property's worth and what hopefully the rest of the market feels the property's worth. So what would your next offer be? And have I got your absolute best? Because I don't want you to miss out on the price. If you want this home, please go to your absolute best offer and allow me to help you to get it.
Gotcha.
Love it.
Thank you.
Amazing. Really well done. Any last questions, guys? Okay. Well, it's been obviously a great session, and timing has been right on point. Just want to start talking about some fundamentals and then just share our upcoming session. So, of course, the fundamentals is always going to be motivation, timing, and destination. And Stephen R. Covey from the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People said, first seek to understand, then to be understood. And I want everyone to really understand that every year, approximately 500,000 homes are sold in Australia, of which 450,000 plus, over 90%, are using real estate agents to sell their home. Really think about it. 450,000 plus vendors entrust their most valuable asset to someone that they may have only just met. And I think the importance and our value proposition and the responsibility we have to master our negotiation techniques, to make sure that we're totally transparent in everything that we do, and to maximize the result, is a huge responsibility, and a responsibility we should all be proud of when we've mastered our negotiation process. Would everyone agree? I would think so. Okay, so again, this session is going to be available for everyone to revisit. It's going to be in the Black Salt AI virtual coach. It's our new shiny toy, for lack of a better expression. We're going to be super excited about. Just for everyone to know, next session, we've obviously January, February, we've had our client engagement roadmap, the Signa negotiation process. Next session is going to be bulletproofing your referral network, and there will be a guest host taking that session and talking about referrals, and we'll be sharing that with a whole bunch of the team. At least we haven't, can we disclose as yet, or no? Okay, cool. Okay. February's session, the 27th, growing your business in a disruptive landscape. We've got a co-host, Tom Panos, attending that session. Our needle moving dialogue, May, Thursday the 1st, lock that one in. We've got Tom Panos also co-hosting that session. So that should be an absolutely invaluable session to join in. Just mark it in your calendars, guys. Really, it is important. And of course, lock in your lock in the dates for Black Salt, which is coming up soon in December of this year. So I'll stop sharing now. Big thank you to everyone that's obviously stayed the whole duration of the session. And your feedback as well, guys, on these sessions is really invaluable. So we can improve them and make sure that we're delivering the content that you want to hear. We've got access, as Maria says, to the brains trust of agents from right across the country, from WA through to the Northern Territory, through to Queensland. Every state and territory is probably represented today. Team, thank you so much again. Any last questions or anything? Big shout out again to JC, Michael, Daniel, Gary, Adam, and Alan for participating today. Thank you also for your participation, Jazz. It's always great. I'm sure everyone's got some great content from today. Any last thoughts, Arthur?
No, I was just going to say AI is going to pick up a ton of knowledge out of this today. So this is just going into the vault, and I'm so excited about that, Manos. So fantastic to everyone who spoke today. Thanks for sharing, and let's get stuck into implement.
Yeah, absolutely. A big shout out, guys. Thanks again, Daniel. Thank you, Michael, JC. And we'll see you all in the next session in March, or actually 27th of Feb. All right, be good.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, everyone. Be good.